That's what
focused
my
on
team's like. We're going
defend the area.
triangle,
No,
boys. Like, you
exactly.
smoke up.
That's what your
Like,
team like smokes across the map. But that's all you do.
like, no, bro.
And then welcome to the Dota Club podcast. I'm your host here with co-host Pine. Hello, Pine.
Hello, I'm
How are
fine.
you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a nice 12:18.
You play any Dota today?
Did I play any Dota today? No,
Before
haven't played
12:18?
yet
You're not
today.
getting on the AM games?
I'm not getting on the AM games, dude. I don't know, but the AM games are like from 12 to like. Actually, it's a wider range than that. It's like 10 to like 7. Games are just not good.
7 p.m.?
Or like 5. The
Yeah, okay.
midday games
I
are
feel
not
like
good. They
so
started getting good towards the end, like at
I
dinner.
notice a difference as well, but I also feel like I have the tendency to cope when I queue during the day and a game is
Exactly.
bad and I say like, "Oh, it's just a
Day game.
daytime game.
Yeah,
Everyone playing
literally.
during the day doesn't have a job and is a loser." And I'm playing during the day, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
but I feel like they're fine. And I've seen a lot of hate recently on Dota Twitter about like weekend Dota. Like people be like, "Oh,
Weekend
weekend
Dota is
Dota, like
also
I'm going to
terrible.
lose." Okay, so you agree with that take? You think it's worse than
No, no,
like
no. I
weekday
agree
Dota?
with your take. I agree with your take that it's cope, regardless of whether or not that's true. Though I do have negative experiences on weekends. Regardless of whether or not that's true, it's just not a good mindset to have
Yeah.
because, like you said, you can just apply it to like every single game and rationalize
You
that
can,
it was a
yeah,
weekend
it
game.
applies. You can
And
apply it even where it
my
doesn't
team's
apply.
just like so chill, it's impossible to play.
No, dude, but it goes both ways. Like, honestly, in my opinion, weekend games are easier to carry. Like, from a position one perspective, I'm a carry player. For those of you who don't know,
Yeah.
if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. We're two immortal players just chatting
Yes.
about Dota. But yeah, I think the games are easier to carry because the people on the other team are like worse too. That's all I notice is that the weekend Dota games, the skill level goes down a little bit, but I don't notice like, or I guess the quality can be worse if you get like casual people on your team. But
I
um,
do think it's just a different vibe. I mean, this is just like specific to NA, like my experience. Um, but the weekend players are just like it's way more relaxed, but because it's more or like I think the skill's lower, so since the skill's lower, people will like not know what's actually wrong in the game if you're losing and then just like flame you randomly for like some random thing that didn't matter instead of like what's actually happening in the game or just like yeah, just being upset. I think people do that like just if you're lower skill or you feel like you're helpless in terms of the control of the game, it's easy cope to like flame people because you don't really know what's happening. So it's just like subconscious mechanism of coping with it.
yeah,
That I think a lot of people fall into.
yeah, I think it takes a lot. We talked about this off camera recently. But it takes a lot of focus to not like flame people. Like it's kind of just human nature. Or I don't want to say human nature. That's like too broad.
I don't know
But
if I
yeah,
agree
no,
with
but
that.
it's
Yeah.
my tendency, and I feel like a lot of other people's tendencies to like type at their team and like become inflammatory, even if they don't mean to be. A lot of
Yeah.
times they'll be like passive aggressive, and I guess my point is just that it takes discipline to like not aggravate your team.
Yeah. I
Unfortunately.
also think another point is that it's inevitable to a certain extent. Like it's not your job in your game to like police the behaviors of your teammates and or like try to educate them. Not to like come from a righteous point of view, but like if some guy's being toxic, it's not your job to like be like, hey man, like why are you doing that? Like
Yeah.
it's over, man. Like just mute that guy.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're optimizing for if you're trying to like win games or get MMR. Because I also think that the reason why people do that, why I do that, whether or like in voice or like subconsciously to myself, like just focusing on my teammates' gameplay, um, is it's like an ego thing, right? And so if your ego is bruised, and ego can be like the lightest term. It doesn't need to be as serious as your ego is bruised, but like if you're in a game and instead of like taking the game for what it is and like accepting your responsibility exactly how it is in the game, it's very easy to just cope at any point over anything, right?
Yeah.
I think it's ego driven.
Yeah.
How's your week? I mean, this began with you asking about my week, but how's your week been in
It
clubs?
was interesting. I've been losing a lot more than I was before. I don't want to say it's like a lost streak, but my win rate has not been good, and I'm kind of used to
Mhm.
it being like at least above 50, honestly.
Below
Um,
50.
and there's this like interesting. I mean, I've talked to you about this. I'll say it for the people listening, but I spent the last couple months, like 3 months in Southeast Asia, and I was actually playing Dota at LAN cafes in Southeast Asia, which is really hype. There are like people that are playing like Dota 1 next to me or like Warcraft who didn't
That's
speak
so
English.
sick.
No,
I
yeah,
don't know.
it was cool.
That's really
You like
sick.
order food like noodles or like eggs or like soup for like $1 USD, and they like deliver it to you. You don't need to talk to them. No human interaction. You order it from the computer. It just comes to you. It's like all
That
digital.
makes the gaming culture so much better there. Like
Yeah, no,
that
it's
sounds way
more
more
wholesome.
fun. And I'm just like playing pubs in my home.
Yeah, no, I would like see the same people at the cafe
Yeah.
as well. And so we like chat, even if they didn't play Dota or something. One
Yeah.
guy, I would like only play Dota, right? And then one guy would see me there a lot, and he's like, "Bro, like you're always here." And I was like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "Do you only play Dota?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh," I could tell he was like a little bit weirded out. It's like some Vietnamese teenager or something.
That's
But that
funny.
was just funny. But anyway, I mean, I don't want to blame my loss streak for that. Or I honestly think I've been playing pretty decently. Um, but I think recently my outlook on the game changed, and so I've been playing a little bit differently. But with that difference, or at least for me, a really big part of winning a lot is mental. So like I'm super prone to, I don't even want to call it tilting. I guess it is tilting, but I don't do it like outwardly at my team. I usually mute a lot of people. I talked about this in one of my most recent videos. If you're curious about why I do this, check that out. But I usually mute a lot of people, and so my tilt is like internal, where like I will
Yeah.
just lose the mental discipline or focus required to carry the game. And I feel like part of that came from my like play style changing, which I think is a better play style. Um, I got coaching from
It's like
DNM.
you gotta lose some MMR to gain some MMR, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
If
I
you're
think that's
doing a new
part of it.
profile.
I got coaching from DNM. If you don't know him, he's like rank 30 in NA, and I was originally apprehensive at getting like an NA coach because NA lol. But I watched his stream. I watched his stream
It's so fucked.
a little bit. And he's really good. Obviously, I mean he's a really
Yeah, I
experienced
mean,
carry player. But a big reason is because he was like cheaper than, I mean, like BSJ coaching is like $400 or something. Um, and I think it's
every
really,
BSJ's
no,
coach.
I mean it's fine. I'm sure he does a
Yeah,
good
it is
job.
expensive.
I'm sure he does a great job. All I'm saying is it's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but I mean, I think even that coaching is worth it. Like if you care about improving, I
Yeah.
think like getting coaching sets you on a fast track, and you have to spend a little bit of money to save a little bit of time. But anyway, I got DNM coaching for my drow because he's like a drow specialist. In this patch, he has a 75% win rate on
I was
drow
literally just looking at Drow and
over,
Pro Track
yeah,
today,
over like
and I
20
was like,
games.
damn, DM's just
No,
winning
he's
every game.
owning. So that's
Yeah.
why I got his coaching. It's $50 an hour, which is cheaper than most coaches. And I was like, look at my drow.
Your
Especially
Drow was dog shit, or what happened?
I mean, of course, no. I prefaced the session. By the way, he's a really chill guy. I mean, compared to like his like
Cool.
11K drow, my drow's gonna be bad.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Um,
that's why you're paying the coaching.
yeah. But what was I gonna say? Um, yeah. So I prefaced it with this, and I'll tell you guys the same thing. Like, I'm not a drow player by any means. Like, my carry pool is melee, and they're like pretty tanky, survivable heroes. So my hero pool is like Ursa, PL, Alchemist. Like, I played a lot of Jug back in the day, like Terrorblade, right? I don't play like the drows, the Medusas, the sniper. So I told him that in the beginning, and so he explained a lot of really interesting differences between like those carries and where he sees people go wrong with it. And he gave like really good anecdotes. I guess this is becoming like an advertisement for DM coaching, but he's talking about like the same thing happened to Eternal Envy and stuff because he like got used to playing these melee heroes. Um, and the coaching helped a lot, but I have like a different view of the game now. And so I think I'm thinking about that, and I'm not thinking about the mental discipline aspect as much. So that's kind of why I'm losing. But when I combine them, I know I'm going to win a lot of games. It was literally like a light bulb clicked, or like he, clicked the light bulb in my head. But it also helped because he was a very experienced carry only player, right? He wasn't another role, so he
Mhm.
gave me a lot of advice.
I'm curious to hear like those takeaways. Like, what's this like light bulb
Yeah,
that clicked? Just
so
a couple of them,
okay,
right?
yeah,
Because you
so
probably learned a
one,
lot.
yeah, I did, and I still have to rewatch the recording and like go over it.
I'm
It's
curious
it's
about
so
range carries and
no, it's
shit.
so valuable though. So the biggest, I guess,
Yeah.
like light bulb difference with ranged carries versus other carries is the lane equilibrium matters a lot more in the lane.
Mm.
And the replay I gave him, I was against like a Night Stalker and a Tiny, And I had the right idea where
Yeah,
my
yeah.
idea going
I'll
into the
get you.
my idea going into the lane was that if they go on me, I will die and it's not good. And I was with a silencer, by the way. But if they go on silencer and I counter initiate, like, it's good. And that was my idea, which was correct. But what I wasn't thinking about was where the lane was mattered, because I went into the lane with like tunnel vision. It's just like, oh, drow silencer, we'll just like click them down against double melee. It'll be easy. And I
Hmm.
ended up winning the lane, but I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning that he said would have been like punished really heavily at high MMR. And they didn't like really
That's
capitalize.
this coaching sounds so good as
No, it was
well,
really
right?
good.
Because like,
You should see the recording. I'll send it to you. It was
yeah,
really good.
I'm down.
But basically, he said that the tiny existing like makes the lane kind of hard, and if I get hit with like any Ava, I'm basically dead from
You're
full
getting
because
tossed
I
back
get
and
like
just boomed.
tossed back and boomed. And where the lane is like makes a big difference in that. And what happened is the lane got like in front of their tower, and then I got
It's over.
Ava
Like
blood
that's the only.
grenaded, and I
Okay.
died from full.
Yeah,
Right? It's
yeah.
crazy. It was like
No,
level 2,
100%.
right? But the lane
Jesus.
position matters so
Oh,
much
100%.
on
Yeah.
range and
If
more
you
on
also think,
melee.
if you view it from the off lane four perspective, like their win condition in the lane as tiny Night Stalker, because like come on, like they're fucking useless. Overall, like they should not. The
Yeah.
only way they kill you is you're getting like tossed into tower and like killed from full HP, or not tossed into tower necessarily, but like if they toss you back in front of your tower, that doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You can like
It's
even
not
like
as good.
turn eventually, right? Like it's easy to space.
Yeah.
You can fall back to your tower. But yeah, if you get tossed back in front of their tower, that's like the only way they win the lane. But
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
so
So
potent against tiny.
yeah, so
They
I
can just wrap
spent
on
a
you and
little
kill
bit
you.
too much of the focus on like right clicking them, which is still good because Drow does like the orb walking, obviously. But I didn't think about where the lane was, and then
You gotta
I
like
died.
tend to the wave in between, right?
Yeah, no,
That's
exactly.
that's the idea of like always being doing something. Because like not that you need to be hitting stuff if it's perfect, but like if there's work to be done in terms of maintaining lane equilibrium, like let's say you're like a creep up at some point, because you pulled aggro or some shit, you wouldn't not necessarily on drow, but like you got to click a creep down, and you got to fit that in during your harass, because you can be clicking them, clicking your creeps, right?
Yeah, no,
So
it's true. It
a lot
matters
of
a
it
lot.
to be had there.
And this was like a great insight because it was exposing my like weaknesses as a player, because he said it himself, like it doesn't matter as much on like tanky melee heroes, or even like some of the heroes I play like aren't tanky, because you can just turn on them if they go on you and they can't like dive you. And when I say dive,
Yeah.
I mean dive past your creep wave, right? On Drow they can literally just run past the wave like level
Oh yeah,
3 and it doesn't
you're just
matter,
getting
you
destroyed.
know, I'm cooked.
It doesn't matter.
But on the melee heroes, like you can. So
You're like fighting
this
back.
this like insight about lane equilibrium will all, and he went into like some specifics on how to keep lane equilibrium and like what I did wrong, which was helpful. But for the sake of brevity, I won't get into all that. I mean, even before, like it's enough for you guys just to know that I barely focused on lane equilibrium. Like just as a player, it's like a huge flaw in my gameplay, and so I'm glad I'm
Hmm.
learning Drow, because now I realize how much it matters on ranged heroes, but also on melee heroes it will help too. Um, yeah, what was I saying? I feel like I was making some sort of point before that. I don't remember. But anyway, the second insight, and this is just like a general carry principle, is, and this sounds so simple, and I used to play this way back when like I would climb a lot. Back when we would play together, we had an insane win rate, like 70% or something when we would do a ranked. We would think this way. But I lost it somehow, and DNM pointed it out. It was just like playing proactively, and I think part of this was because I was on a new hero, right? I'm on Drow, so I'm thinking about like the farming patterns more than I would on my other heroes, where those are more subconscious. But the way that DNM phrased it was really clear, where it was just like there's a list of objectives in the game. Okay, starting from the bounty runes minute 0, and then there's the lotus fruit, and the list goes on, right? You have
Did you
like,
give him your anti 0 minute bounty rune like rant?
no,
Oh,
I didn't. We didn't get into that.
that's
We
funny.
started with the lane.
You're like, you never go to the bounty runes. He's like, what?
Yeah, no. But so there's like a list of objectives in the game, and you need to play to those objectives.
Yeah.
And the way he phrased it was very clear, because he implied that there's like, and it's not this simple, but this is a good way to generalize, or to like to simplify it, is there's only one at a time. So for example, like the first major objective after the lane that you should look to take is their safe lane tower. So any fight is a carry. Any fight that happens around that objective is good for me to go to, because if I take the tower, it means my farming pattern increases and I get more space for myself. Which again, this was something like when I was mode like Crabao, like Crab Teasy, you know, I I would play
Yes.
like this,
Yes.
you know, and now I'm so passive. and it showed a lot on Drow.
Yeah,
But
just because you're. I mean, it's a scary world out there when you're Drow,
yeah,
honestly.
no, it is. I spent a lot of
But like,
time
you still gotta play the video
in
game,
my
unfortunately.
triangle. Yeah, so
Yeah.
the safe lane tower is good, and then like after that, the mid tower is good. And he explained like why they're good. And again, these are things that I knew at one point, but honestly, they have like slipped my mind when I'm
These are like micro
playing
objectives,
recently.
are they? Like, was he saying like, oh, it's like bounty runes, like pole camp or some shit? But it wasn't that specific, right? It was more like map objectives.
Yeah, so we talked about most of the major objectives. We also talked about the lotus fruit,
That's
and stuff,
classic.
but it
Yeah.
was more, yeah. I mean, it was
That's
more
neat.
like a list of just the major
That's
objectives.
cool.
But the insight is like I need, even as a carry, when I like want to scale and hit my timings, I need to have impact in those objectives and like play to them and play proactively for them. So, for example, after the laning, and this is really interesting. I'm in 6K right now for anybody watching this, and you'd think that that's high MMR, but I can tell that nobody in 6K pubs thinks this way about the game. They don't have the objectives in mind, and if they have objectives in mind, they're wrong. And I found this because after I started playing this way, which given I've been like losing, but I think it's the right way to play. But I mean, I think I'm losing because of like the mental aspects, not because of this.
New hero as well, right?
Um,
Like it's
yeah, yeah. But I mean, this applies to other heroes as well. But people in 6K just don't play to the objectives. So for example, like he would point out Roshan like way earlier than I would think about Roshing. And so in my games, I would apply that and I would call for Rosh like pretty early. So at Rosh, the objective is usually after you take their safe lane tower, after you take their mid tower, and then you take control of their safe lane jungle. And so whichever side, if you're Radiant or Dire, the timing matters. But
if it's day, you can take like a daytime Roche
yeah,
if you're dire,
but
and then vice versa.
all you should be thinking about during like after you take those two towers is Roche. You should just control the area and play for Roche. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. So just like put wards in the area, wait for Roche
That's
to
what my
spawn,
team's like. We're
defend
going
the area.
triangle,
No,
boys. Like you
exactly.
smoke up,
That's when your
like
team like smokes across the map. But that's all you do,
like no, bro.
and then Roche
Let's
spawns,
farm the two waves
and
and
then
like spawn, get Roche.
yeah, and then you just take Roche, and all of a sudden I'm like 17 minutes with Roche. And then now I can progress the game because I have the Aegis. I can start taking the offlane tower, which is probably the next objective. Take control of the enemy triangle, and then there's like, I guess,
Yeah,
I don't know if I worded
dude.
the insights
Okay.
to sing. Sorry, what? Yeah, what are you
Yeah,
gonna say?
I was gonna say that people are like, I can already see people being like, this is so obvious, bro. Like you go fucking T1, like Roche T2,
No, dude,
like the
nobody
old
plays
map
like it.
formula. But I think the point that's important here is that your and your teams, but like if your team doesn't do this, it's like it's all good because they're your pub teammates. But your actions in the role of the team relate to doing this. So like if it's Roche, like if I'm a mid laner, if you're going to control Roche, let's say you're controlling bottom Roche, you're probably going to want to push mid bottom and control the bottom area.
Yeah,
And there's going to be waves crashing in top, and they're going to have like 4 heroes behind this wave, right? So this is me thinking as a mid laner. Like if I'm Ember Spirit, my job in controlling Roche is going top and catching those waves
yeah.
with a remnant
And
down.
if you do
I
that,
go through
that's
the
fucking
gate.
impact.
You're carrying the whole game in
Yeah, that's
6K. Like no
impact.
like if I say like guys, we should play for Roche, like people would do that and then feed and not be at Roche or not realizing they're playing for Roche. Like you're gonna push the wave, gate back, control Roche, right? And then you can gate back, get waves with a remnant. I'm using Ember because that's one of my heroes as an example. This is how I would be thinking. But
Yeah,
like I leave a remnant, go gate there, push some waves versus 4 heroes, slight that shit, like get out. And then eventually I'm still playing for Roche, but you'd be like play for Roche in a pub, and your Ember Spirit would just sit at Roche and like hit the camps
yeah. No,
next to it
exactly. That's
for
a
like
really good
5
point.
minutes. Like that's not what I meant. Everyone has their role in playing for Roche,
Yeah.
right? It's not just the part where you take the
I
objective.
mean, to
Everybody's
be honest,
decisions
if
in the game and positioning
yeah,
is about the Roshan.
that's a great point. I mean, to be honest, if my Ember in a pub sat near Roche for 2 minutes before we took it, I'd be
You're like
happy.
all
I'd
good.
be happy. Instead, they just go and
Yeah.
feed versus the 4 heroes.
They're just
But
like going into the triangle with a rune, and it's like let's fight, boys. It's like
another
no,
reason,
dude.
like people watching this might say it's obvious, but like people don't play to the objectives. So a lot of times, I would just get it for free. I would get a free Roche. The enemies would not contest. They're not thinking about Roche. At
Roche
that
is
point in
like
the game.
criminally under contested
Yeah,
in these bad
it
pubs, though,
is.
right? I feel like nobody contests Roche. There's never that daytime Roche in the 10 to 15 day. You
Yeah,
see that shit all the time, with like crazy ass lineups, like some level 6 supports going into the pit
yeah.
in like high MMR pubs, and it's like holy shit.
And even like
My team's not looking at that shit.
if I'm playing Drow, and let's say there's like a mini team fight or a skirmish in the enemy safe lane tower, and I TP there, most of the time the enemy team's not going to bring 5 heroes, and I'll get the tower for free. Whereas like, and that is the current objective in the game, is like that tower. That's what we want to do. So in Heimdallr games, the enemies also view it like that. So they will bring
They bring the
the
defense.
necessary
Exactly.
heroes to defend it. Here, half the time, like there's no defense. I just get it for free. And so I look at this and I take what DNM told me and I look at my games, and now it just feels like people aren't even playing Dota. And like, yeah, it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
people just don't defend
Yeah.
the relevant objectives.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
people do
tough.
defend like high ground and stuff, right? Or no, I'm not saying like, I'm not flaming my team for not defending the
No, no,
Dota
no, of
objectives.
course.
I'm saying it's easy for me now to be proactive and like take that step
Yeah.
because nobody defends or anything. It's nice. Like people don't play Dota.
I feel like Drow is such a cool hero to learn that on because you kind of just it reminds me of Enigma, but you don't have a team fight ult, right? So there's not that like gotcha of I'm playing for fucking Enigma like Refresher Black Hole or something. But as Drow, you kind of just walk around like you get a D Lance and you can walk around and contribute to stuff, but you're not doing some crazy shit. You're like the center of what the team's doing. You're like sieging a tower or you're waiting for Roche and farming in the area. You're not the guy like cutting waves and stuff like that. So it's really like your positioning dictates a lot about what your team's up to, not that people are following you. And also you just have to be very cognizant of where you place your hero in order to be like actually contribute to stuff.
Yeah, it's true. So that was my DNM coaching experience. And again, I think part of the reason I've been losing since it is because I'll like make these really good, like impactful early game plays that I like wouldn't have made before. And I'll be thinking like, wow, like Crab Teasy is back. Like before I won the game,
When he
right?
takes a safe lane tower,
Yeah,
it's like it's
no,
over.
literally. Or like I get an early Aegis. And then also like I know like I don't want to call it like a script because every Dota game is different, but like
Hmm.
it's just very clear in the sense that okay, after you take a T2, you take their Tormentor. Like you should always do that
Like the
before
20
trying to push high
2021
ground.
Tormentor. Are
Yeah.
you saying you take the T2 right there?
No, no, no. I'm just saying after you take the T2 by their Tormentor, you take their Tormentor.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
something you should do, right? Every
Yeah.
game basically if you can. Or like the
Yeah. And
Tormentor
then there's the
is an
play where
objective in the
they
order.
might come out and like be in smoke and try to catch you when you're low.
Yeah.
There's that whole it becomes an objective that people are fighting for.
Yeah,
Not
no,
in
exactly. Not in
most
6K
games.
games, right?
Exactly. You walk up that shit, you take the Tormentor, everyone just leaves, they take the Tormentor,
Yeah.
all weak heroes.
But
Yeah.
an insight here for maybe carry, I think this applies to carry a lot, but maybe for other roles too. Like if you know the right objectives to take, you can just take them for free in most of your games, with the exception of high ground. Okay, people will defend their high
You
ground.
need to not advertise taking high ground for free.
Yeah, no. High
My
ground is
carries
not
just like
free.
walking up high ground, like guys,
They're
just
not
fucking hit
defending,
this.
guys. They bring
It's
five
like
heroes to
skewered
defend.
back into the 5 heroes. Yeah, it's over.
But yeah, so I feel like my Dota kind of outlook has changed a little bit
I
since
like that.
then.
It makes sense that it's not working easily because I feel like this relates to carry players, but like I don't think that's like what a lot of carry players are thinking about.
No.
Um, and they're not like so most people think when they're carry, it's like my role is to like get 7 slots and like fucking crab teasy. I'm blinking on the whole team, killing them all. Um, and then it's just like they're just playing for like 70 minutes. Like they don't contribute anything. Like contributing early game as a carry is really high skill and not something that people are looking to do.
Yeah.
But every hero, as I said, has a role in playing for the objectives. Whether that be, you don't want to contribute, you're weak and you're on the other side of the map, like drawing people away from the objective and just like farming backwards safely, right? There's a way to contribute to the objectives
Yeah,
and your
no,
hero has a
that's a
role.
great point. And that's really where my view changed, is viewing Dota through the lens of objectives and like how am I contributing to the objective right now?
Yeah.
It's massive.
That's a huge way to contribute to the team because that's a big part of the team aspect of the game is getting the objectives as a team. And obviously you can't control your teammates, but your individual contribution to that objective can like carry in these pubs if people are even contesting, right? But like, you might be able to get away with more than if the enemy team would respond, 5 people defend their safe lane tower, etc. But your contribution in any role to these objectives is really important,
Yeah.
right?
And as a
Something you can
carry, another
leverage.
way to view it is taking the objectives helps your game. They expand your farming patterns, right? You want your
Yes.
farming pattern. This was another good point that again, when I was Crab Teasy, I feel like I knew this before, but I feel like I just like forgot a lot of
Yeah.
this stuff. Your farming pattern should like expand as you get more items because you can take more space, right? You should start including more camps. And another thing I was
Yeah.
doing wrong on Drow. Again, Drow is a very new hero for me, but I would just like I do the same farming pattern for a while.
You're hitting ancients the whole time, or
double
what?
ancients and like a wave, which is good, but it's not like 10k good, you know. And
Yeah,
he worded it really well, like to put this issue succinctly, is that I wasn't playing proactively because
yeah,
I wasn't thinking about the objectives, and thinking about the objectives and playing to them as being proactive. I was just being reactive. But again,
yeah.
to give myself some credit, the replay was a really hard Drow game. They had Night Stalker, Ember Spirit, and PA. Okay, so I presented that to him with that in mind. Um,
What did he have
but
to say
still,
about that?
something really
He
insightful.
was like, "This shit is free."
No. I'm glad you asked, because this is another like really big takeaway, is that when you play glass cannon heroes, okay, what's their strength?
Yeah,
They blow people up. What's their weakness? They get blown up. So if you make the first move and then you burst somebody before the fight even starts, that's how you win. And they don't like when they're reactive and they're getting initiated on. That's when
yeah,
that's when they're bad. And so I was playing to the weakness of the hero, because I was thinking like, oh, I can't get initiated on, so I'm just gonna sit in my triangle. No, like that's what they want. They'll just smoke to the triangle and kill me. And if a team fight
yeah.
breaks out, they're ready for me to come. But the antidote
Child's
to
got great
that,
lockdown with the silence too.
yeah, the
I mean,
antidote
you're
to
not like
that,
the one like making the play happen necessarily. This is also relating to the team aspect, where like a draft with Drow Ranger, your Drow Ranger versus PA, it's pretty defined by you would want to have catch in your Drow's draft, right? Like some hero that's going to go first and like stun some guy, and Drow's just going to kill him because you're going to have to play to that in team fight. You're not just playing this front to back like everyone's showing on a ward. Like your Drow's going to get destroyed.
yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah,
So you need to make the first move as a glass cannon, which is like
yeah,
not the most intuitive, but it made a lot of sense when he explained it like that. That's how you win. You burst somebody and you play the team fight 4v5, 4v6 with an Aegis.
yeah,
That was great. I'll send you the video. You should watch it. It's really good.
yeah. I definitely want to. It sounds really good. Free DNM sponsorship here promoting him, but it really sounds so
Yeah,
good.
check out his twitch.tv/DNM
And then you
Drow.
lost every Drow game.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But again, I think I'm just like I think it's the mental thing where like this happened multiple
Contributing to the
games.
objectives is so
I
insightful.
own early and I contribute to the objectives, and I'm like, damn, like I played so well this game before it is over, and then I'll stop like thinking,
Oh my
and I'll
god.
stop playing, and I'll be
Yeah, it's
like,
like the complete opposite now. It's like play for only late game, and now it's like I won the. This is like a support player syndrome though. This is like when you win all your lanes as a support, and it's like it was just so easy, guys. Like
yeah, no,
it's a light
exactly.
work for me, and then you're like the game just goes 40 minutes and you lose the whole game because you guys like. It's so easy to fall into that trap as well because it feels like after you've done stuff early game, the game is easier, right? Like the rest of the game should be won, but I also think it's the part of the game that people are the worst at because it's the one you get the least practice at, right? The early game is the least amount of variables, the most easily reproducible. Like if you watch a replay and you're watching their early game, you can make something akin to that or like tangential to that happen. But if you're watching some 60-minute fight, it's like, or like how they're playing the map. So people are just worse at that at
Yeah,
the late game.
I think
And they think it's won. Like, oh, I won the early game, but like people win the early game all the
yeah,
time, bro.
pushing high ground for no reason is such a plague.
Yeah,
This kind of relates, but I asked I asked DNM a lot of questions during the coaching session, which he said he really appreciates, and that a lot of coaching students are like
just sit there.
pretty timid. Yeah,
Yeah, it's easy to be intimidated though.
yeah, no, it is,
Makes sense.
But I asked him, I was like, I had an Aegis, and then I asked him, would you ever like just walk up 5v5 and like hit a T2 with his Aegis on drought, right? And he goes, no, never. Like his reaction was just so like visceral, and it was like implied that I asked a dumb question. Although he didn't interpret it as a dumb question, but his reaction was just
Yeah, it's just like that's
really
disturbing
telling.
behavior
Yeah, no,
to like
exactly.
do that.
It's like it's
Yeah,
disturbing
that's
to do
that's
that.
hilarious.
But that's like the play that most pub players, and like I would make a
That's
lot of the time.
happening
Like,
every
we got
pub,
the Aegis,
bro.
let's go hit this tower. You know,
Your
like
whole
group
people are
up.
pinging the T2 tower, like you just walk straight from the Roche pit, like
Yeah, he's like, oh god, no.
boom, you get tossed back, like you're just dead twice.
Yeah,
Yeah, well
no,
played, guys.
literally.
We
So
threw the whole game.
that was insightful too. There are so many good snippets from that.
Yeah. That's really dude, people would definitely see Drow as just this like sieging hero, which she is to a certain I mean, she's not actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's hard to siege on Drow. Because if you compare it to like an actual hero that like sieges at range, like Medusa, right? Like you just walk up that bitch and hit the high
Yeah,
ground, and
she's
it's like it's
tanky.
completely chill. It's completely chill. Drow isn't just like sieging your high
No,
ground
her
and
Aegis
living.
like doesn't matter as much as a lot of other heroes, because if you
You
get
gotta like run around and pick people
repositioned,
off. I
you
mean,
die twice with Aegis too easily.
I think if your team's if you die last twice, it's completely worthless,
Yeah.
right?
Or if
If
your
you
team
have the
has four
Aegis on,
staffs, it's better. They force
No. I'm
feed you.
saying you're dying. You're the last alive. You're double dying like immediately.
Oh yeah,
Oh, but
yeah,
you're just saying in
definitely. I'm
general.
saying in general, so they can
Yeah.
reposition you. I mean,
I
it.
also like you want to be the person who gets bursted if they're trying to turn it into a 4v5, right? Like if you're thinking without Aegis, you want to be the guy who gets bursted first, and you just turn it from a 65 to a 5v5, and they spend some spells. Because if you die late in the fight, like you need your other heroes to back you up, even if you're gonna like do all the damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's easy to get baited on Drow when you have Aegis, but like you just can't do shit if you're alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The play is to kill somebody right before a team fight, like smoke and burst people. But
Yeah.
then the
It
thing is,
also
if you're up like 4v5, like go siege, like do it. That's what you should do.
100%.
It's just when it's 5v5, you shouldn't.
It's interesting to think of Drow this way. I didn't think, but she's also not like long cooldown based, so she would much prefer situations where she's to progress the game at any point. Like you're getting pickoffs on the map in these skirmishes where you pull up with the silence and like catch some guy and you're just killing people. You're not like sieging high ground forcing a 5v5 or it's similar to other like low cooldown heroes. Like you prefer like these 2v2, 3v3s on the map, like these small skirmishes where you catch people and chain those together into like doing stuff. It's not as
Yeah.
easy to just force compared to if you have like Enigma or Mars and you just like go team fight
Dude,
and bait.
everyone forces in all my 6K pubs these days. It's all people do. Like they'll be up, it'll be 5v5. They won't have an Aegis, and they'll just like walk high ground and throw. I'm like I don't know how I'm
Yeah,
losing these games, man. Because
that's how you have to relate,
people
or
throw every
that's
game.
how you have to, or why you have to mute all. But people just do it anyways. That reminds me of a pub, but like people just ping objectives because we talked about objectives. Like people are like playing for the objectives, but they just ping like the worst objective ever, like in the middle of like nowhere. Like you're just sitting there farming, and then there's like high ground guys, or like they see like one hero bottom, and they're like, it's high ground, and you don't even have Aegis. He's like, let's go.
Yeah, no,
How does this make any sense,
throwing is a
guys?
plague, man. I mean, I do it too
Like,
sometimes.
yeah, throwing is a plague. People just take it so
It's because
easy when you're
forcing
winning.
is simple and clear. Like let's walk up and siege, boys. Okay, but the actual way to do it is not simple and clear, and it depends on the game. And you like ideally get a pick off, but how you get the pick off is like really nuanced and it requires more coordination. You know?
Yes. People just like, I don't think like directly. It's because I agree with what you said that doing the actual thing is hard and requires a lot of focus. And I wouldn't say like a lot of coordination, like your team needs to be on the same page, but like I feel like people just get bored and they walk up
Yeah,
high
no,
ground
that's a
because it's
big part
like
of it too. You
they,
have to
they,
be
they want to
patient.
stop thinking. It's like, let's got the Aegis, let's just flip the whole game
Yeah,
really quick
yeah.
with the Aegis, fuck it. And like I don't have to think anymore. But it's like, no, we still gotta like play the Dota thing where we were like playing the map and like doing good things, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it didn't just end. Yeah, people get lazy.
Yeah.
It's too much as well. Like it's like every game, like your team just wants to toss it at the end of the game. And it's not like team blame or anything. But if you're operating on your individual impact, like it's so easy to like get baited or think in that way because you're surrounded by people who think that way and just like when you watch pro games sometimes, like and they just hold outside the base and they have like the 26k lead and it's like wait Roche. Like they're doing that for like you should do that shit in your pubs. Like
Yeah.
just sit outside their base with wards.
It like
It's so hard to
it
go
feels
high
less
ground.
good to do that. You're like
I don't
it
think
feels
people
like you're
realize how
doing
hard it is
nothing.
to go high ground.
Yeah, no, they don't. They
It's
don't.
literally impossible, guys. They have vision of the whole base,
Yeah.
right? You're in the base, they see you.
Your supports
Meanwhile,
cannot follow you
your
if you walk
supports
through their
literally
base.
see nothing. You
Yeah.
can't see anything, guys. You put a ward in like the one spot, it's getting dewarded, okay? And the thing is, when you start losing a fight on high ground, this is like relating to like lanes. Like you may think like, oh, but it's not that bad. Like I put some ward, we fight. When they retreat 2 feet to the fountain, and you retreat through the entire map, getting chased across
Yeah.
the whole map when your team dies.
They have
You just
multiple
can't.
like health mana pools if they survive.
Yeah, you're
That's such
fighting.
a
Yeah,
classic. As I'm playing anti mage, we're in a base defense, and I blink in. I do a lot of damage. I blink
you're
out,
just
and I go
storm.
heal to full HP. Yeah, or storm
Yeah,
too. You just
it's just
heal,
not
and
a
then you
real
come
fight,
back. You're
guys.
like
We're
in and out.
fighting the whole
Yeah,
team 12 times
so
over.
hard.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
think the
hard.
vision one's so significant as well. Like people don't realize how difficult it is for your backliners to play. Okay, because when I like play, if I dive and I'm like Ember Spirit or some like mid laner, right, or like some dive guy like Pango, but the way supports have to position in general in the base fights is that when you walk up the stairs, it's death, right? Basically, so you can walk up the stairs for a couple seconds because you're on vision. It's just like being on a ward and like cast your spells, but if you're every time what happens is I'm Ember Spirit, I'm diving in the fountain, boom, I get some kills, and I remnant away, and my Rubik's like standing on the high ground,
Oh,
and this
he's
guy gets like
dead. Yeah,
smoked by
no,
the entire
exactly.
team.
Yeah, that
Like
happens.
he can't move
And
up.
then
You can't
suddenly,
like,
suddenly your two supports down. But again, it's
and then
not
yeah,
like
exactly, and then they
necessarily
just run
his
you down.
fault. Like I don't want to blame my supports for that
Yeah,
because
he's
it
trying to
feels
help me out.
natural. He's trying to help.
No, he
Like it's just
exactly.
such a hard
It's
fight.
it's my fault for diving, right?
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. But yeah,
The
it's just
proper
such a
play
hard
for the
fight.
Rubik would be to not walk up for a
You
long
just
time.
you literally
Like you
sit
have to,
outside. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
you just sit
So
outside.
if he can't help you, he can't help you. But that's
You
like,
sit outside and you just pan your camera to your carry
yeah,
diving
you
fountain.
can't
And
expect
you're
your
like,
6K Rubik to know that.
exactly. And it's just yeah, main point being that like fighting high ground is really difficult. And people don't consider that. And also just the fight dynamics. Like you just can't be shut. The vision part is just so underrated, guys. Like they see the whole base.
Yeah.
They get to play perfectly. Um, like what they have also like all vision, and that like people don't realize how much seeing stuff affects your decision making in fights or in the game, right? Like everything's so obvious when you see the whole team and like this guy's walking at you and you know he's gonna kill you, but like it's different when it's nighttime and you can't see anything.
Yeah, you're much more likely to jump a support if you see them on a ward, you know. I think the term like
Exactly.
out of sight, out of mind is so relevant here. Because if
Mhm.
you're, I mean, obviously high MMR players, if you're playing like
You're
anti-mage
cognizant of the
or
player.
Ursa, you know you should jump them. But if you don't see them, it's like, one, it's harder. But two, it's also like out of your mind a little bit more. Whereas if you see them, it's like, oh, it's like free food.
Yeah.
You just kill them instantly.
I mean, the execution is literally dependent on the vision too. If
Yeah,
you play
no, you're right.
something like anti-mage, right? The location of your blink matters so much. Like if you blink on them as anti-mage, they can just run away if you're not blinking directly on top of them.
Yeah.
So like people know if they're playing initiators, like you're playing Mars or something, like blinking into fog and then like fighting, the heroes that appear, it's just so
Yeah,
impossible. You
or
can't
like
really play without
dodging
vision.
spells too. If you're against like a legion or a void, and you see them walking up, and you know they're about to like time walk or blink duel, like you can react so much easier.
Yeah,
Or chronosphere, you know.
yeah. So basically, don't fight in the base, guys.
Yeah.
Get 50k gold lead, and then you can go.
Or pick off. Sieging with the
Yeah,
pick
no,
off is
no. Pick
nice.
off on the map is
But
actually.
no, dude, just to reiterate, like DNM's reaction to me asking the question about like pushing, it wasn't even high ground. It was a T2. Would you siege the T2
No, that's why I was
5v5? It's like,
surprised.
no, oh no. It's like, hell no. But it's so
Hell
like
no, you just lost the whole
eye-opening.
game.
Yeah, no, literally, like, God no. On
God
drow in
no.
particular, this is a drow specific thing, guys. If I'm like, I don't know, PL or something, like you can hit the T2. But
Kinda.
kinda, yeah, kinda. It's hard. It's still hard.
So
But
hard. See, this relates to the T2 fight. The tower or the base fight is the tower is giving vision, and they can TP in fog. So
yeah,
like you could just be hitting the tower and like the whole team pulls up and they know your positions, right? Like and if they go on you under the tower, your teammate starts to show, etc. So and how are you getting vision of these guys TPing on the tower? Like there's like cliff wards, sure, sometimes, right? But they can approach from multiple angles.
hmm
So
hmm
yeah, you got to be really careful around these objectives. People just like people don't play with nuance as well because if we're talking about order of objectives and like contributing it, people be like the next objective is this T2 tower, and then your whole team's just showing on the tower like hitting it. Like that's not you're not playing for the objective. You're just like feeding.
yeah.
Yeah,
You said it
there's
well.
more nuance to
It's
it.
like flipping the game. It's
Yeah,
kind of
it
a
is flip the game.
50-50. Like you're giving the enemy such a good chance to come back. But yeah,
Yeah,
how have your games been going? Spend a lot of time talking about my games.
yeah. I mean the DNM coaching was really interesting. My games have been good. I was playing some off roll. I was playing some Monkey King support. I had a couple games of this so far on this patch.
Courier sniping?
Dude, this shit is so good, but I feel like people want to hear that, and like I don't think Monkey King support is looked kindly
I think
upon
it's really
by a
hard.
large portion of people. Oh, it's exactly, and it's so easy on Monkey King support to like feel like you're griefing the whole game if you're not like if not or the potential is unreal. Where like if every move you have works out, because the thing that I like about Monkey King support with Mischief is you just play the enemy's half of the map. Like you don't play your half of the map. You can still carry your stuff, of course, but a lot of the times you can just go in their base and get your items, right? Like I want tranquil boots. I just like walk into their fountain and get tranquil boots in the windlace. And the proximity to their lanes is so close, right? If you think of running from like the enemy's fountain to their mid laner, like I'm like right there in like three
Yeah.
seconds, and this guy doesn't see me on the map. What you can double click the portrait on Monkey King to like always see where he is if he's mischiefed.
I feel like
Uh,
most players we in our lobbies don't do that. That's
exactly. No, 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 they
really
don't.
MMR shit.
The courier sniping is a legitimate threat. You're just like making cash, and he's like, I mean, his early game isn't awful because mischief, you have a free spell, you dodge damage. Not to go like too much into it, but like
I mean, you
you're
can.
just really mobile and you can contribute to a ton of lanes. Yeah, so it's really fun. But point being, originally, is that it's so easy to feel like you're griefing the game because I might just be leaving my offlaner solo and I'm fucking sniping couriers, and this guy's pissed, right? He's like running it
Well, I
down.
feel like the good Monkey Kings will like alternate between the lane and the courier sniping,
Sure,
right?
but that
So you're
was my
not
other
like
point.
fully courier sniping,
Okay,
or
but
are
the
you?
thing is that
Better report me.
no, no, no. But I mean, I kind of am low key. Like you get a ward in the base and all because you're so fast. Monkey King is so absurdly fast when you have like boots windlace and you're mischief. It's like 10% move speed, the same as I forgot what item get Yasha,
Hmm.
but the like I get a ward in their base or like on the way, and you just see couriers and you react to it. Like I see a courier mid and I'm bottom, I like leap into a tree, jump down, turn into a courier, and walk mid, and I'm there. Like boom, your
I
courier's
see.
dead.
So it's fast.
So you react to where the couriers are coming from. But like, let me tell you, in these pubs, like the couriers are coming out everywhere, right? So I'm just walking from lane to lane, killing every courier on the map,
Oh
and then it's
god.
like boom, it hits 2 minutes, and like boom, I'm back bottom, like I killed two
Uh,
couriers. It's terrible. Like it's
it sounds
unfortunate.
fun.
It's really fun. Um, yeah, but the issue is that because another high skill part about it is like, let's say you're doing this in a team environment, right? XinQ did this a lot. This was the inspiration for this. I saw XinQ do it in like 2 or 3 games. I think it was 2 games, or he ended up playing it more. But and like the first game, he was like legit just sniping couriers. But I think he refined the playstyle. Like it's just something to add to your Monkey King support arsenal, right? It's like I can go for couriers. It's
Yeah.
not like that's my hero. Um,
That's a good point. When it's a good game for it, when your offlaner is strong alone, when you get a pull off and he's hitting creeps
well,
under tower, you can
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Exactly, exactly. It's just a
it's
move
an
in your tool
option.
belt.
Yeah, that's a great way to
Yeah.
do it.
And it's so good. But another thing is like you can really this made me think about support as well a little differently. Where like I mean, like you could gate on other supports, but it's so easy to contribute to multiple lanes as Monkey King, and this is a new, unique way with the courier sniping to a certain extent. But like, let's say I wanted to focus bottom. That's my team's plan. Or like, I don't know why I'm saying bottom, but like, let's say I'm focusing my safe. I'm thinking from Radiant.
Your safe
Um,
lane. Okay.
yeah. So we're focusing my safe lane. We're trying to win that lane, or I want to have most of my impact contributed there,
Yeah.
and I'm going to leave my offlaner alone. Another way I can contribute to that is I snipe their couriers and then go bottom on them, right? And then just like fucking gank them. Um, but that's like in that case, I'm leaving my offlaner like all alone, uh, which is chill. But it's difficult sometimes, right? So my point being that like you can like really sack certain lanes and like focus certain lanes as a support and be like you're dictating what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And Monkey King does it in a really cool way. But yeah, no, that shit is so good in pubs. The courier snipes are so impactful, dude. I'm
I
like
don't know if
sniping
I would
some.
say it's good because that implies
It's really
I think if you're good at it, it can be good or it is good
yeah.
if you're good at it. But
The uptime is so good. Another thing I like, I'm just going on the Monkey King tirade, but dude, he's so fun.
mm-hmm.
Especially as support. I like him as core as well. But with like tranquil boots and like some clarities and like a wand, like you have permanent uptime on the map. You can go there, fountain, get clarities. So and also like the other thing I like to spam is blood grenades. That shit is so good because you throw it from the tree, plus like stun or whatever, or tree plus tree dance, and it's just like a nice reliable setup for your tree dance. And max tree dance, like the fully charged one, is so much damage and so much slow compared to like if you do like half or even like 3/4 of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're giga slowed.
Yeah, yeah.
So that plus blood grenade, you can contribute in lanes so easily, like dive their mid laner and stuff. He's really good at those like really aggressive moves where you're taking stuff on their side of the map, you're
Yeah.
killing them and invading the wisdom rune. His mobility with tree dance is really good.
He also makes a lot of space randomly because a lot of
The
people
whole
like
team
a lot of
chases you,
people will
man. They hate
chase
you.
you and you just get away for like 40 seconds to a minute, and they'll still chase
What?
you.
Stop chasing
This
me,
has
guys!
happened.
Like
Yeah, you're not gonna catch them. You
I
know.
remember, I remember I was sniping couriers in the enemy fountain, and 3 heroes like ran back to fountain to like chase me, and it's like, guys, like, what?
That's so much impact.
Fair enough, but like, just send a support back and like deward my ward and like stand
Yeah.
there. Like, you didn't need to like send the whole gang.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, he makes a lot of space. Especially another thing that I've been really enjoying in my pubs, or this is just a concept that I've been thinking a lot about is side laning because I'm a mid laner, so I don't side lane enough. I do, and like position 4 teaches me more about it because when you're Monkey King, but it's unique to heroes, right? Like certain heroes are better at side laning, like Monkey King or Ember Spirit, stuff like this, because they're mobile. So, and they're also not like cooldown reliant. I think not being cooldown reliant, like if you're a team fighter, just in general, you want to stay mid, right? Because heroes naturally gather around mid.
Yeah, it's a good
Obviously,
point.
you're staying near the next objective, but like heroes naturally gather mid and like you use your cooldowns mid in a lot of situations. So I think those side lane heroes like Ember like tend to the side lane more. But farming side lane is so important because it's just how you play when you're like trying to split up the map and like go for pickoffs because it's a long distance to travel. People are committing their TPs to catch waves, which they should. But yeah, it's a way to pick up so much farm. Nobody side lanes in
It's a
these
lot of
pubs.
impact if a core TPs across the map, right?
Yeah,
Enables your other heroes a lot.
and otherwise they just like don't pick it up and they're just bleeding farm. But like that's on all these roles. Like when you're support, that's how you get farmed is you sit sideways in downtime, right? You're not just AFK. But like let's say your team's like your carry's farming for his item and stuff. Like you can have a ton of impact just pushing that wave, forcing someone to show, you're getting super farmed. And let me tell you, like after there's a team fight mid in my pubs, like everyone just like runs to like the tower right there or like into the jungle and like hits like 3 jungle camps right next to each other. Like go to the other lane, man, and go side lane.
Yeah. No,
Like, what are
pushing
you doing?
lanes in general, this is like a little pivot, but it's so impactful. I noticed like
Yeah,
when the enemies have 3 or 4 heroes that shove waves really well, it just makes the map a lot harder to play.
yeah,
Or
and I
even
find,
I
yeah,
notice
go
a
ahead.
lot of high MMR players, they'll shove a lot of waves even when their hero doesn't naturally do it. They just like put such a big emphasis on it. Like I had this
Yeah.
witch doctor that I played against in my game. Like he had this
No,
glimmer,
dude,
he
Witch
had
Doctor like
glimmer
one shots
cape.
the
Was
wave
fucking does he with cask?
with
Does he one
cask.
shot it?
I
I
think
mean
they
he was
no
like
he
the
okay he was
this witch
like
doctor player like kind of was, but that's not like you don't think of witch doctor as like a wave
yeah yeah,
shover,
yeah.
right? But this guy was doing it. He's like glimmer caping, like cutting waves and shit, and it was impactful.
Like as a goat.
It was crazy. No, it was good. It was actually
Yeah
like kind of a nuisance.
yeah. All right, what else happened in my pubs though? But yeah, side laning is a huge concept. That's how I've been trying to get um more farmed on my heroes in general. I had like a Tusk game as well where I got really farmed from. Heroes have such interesting timings. Like games just tend to be long or like longer than you would think. Because sure, if we play an early game draft, like I would like Tusk is pretty good early game, right? You have the physical damage, you can Roche, etc. When you play stuff like that, you don't really think like what your level 15 talent timing enables for you. But Tusk case, it's the snowball damage, and you can one shot waves at that point, and it's like okay. So if I one shot a bunch of waves and like farm and Aghanims, that's really good, right? Like let's say I have like a blink or something. But yeah, so it's another late game like thing in your tool belt, right? It's like I get to that timing, like my hero does a new thing, like he can one shot waves. Like I can play for that. If the game goes late, I can play for like getting super farmed off the side waves,
Yeah,
or something like that.
I think that's good. I also think it's
Yeah.
about time to wrap up the episode. Do you have any final thoughts? We talked about some good stuff today. It was very technical, getting into the weeds of Dota
Yeah,
and the minds of 6K players who should be 12K. I'm just
exactly.
kidding.
Um, no, that's it.
Okay, yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Oh, is there anywhere where they can find you? The listeners can find you because I know this is going to get
You can find
so
me
many views.
exactly. So you can all find me. All of you guys can find me at Pine Dota on Twitch and other socials pending, I suppose, right? But that's the main one. I'll be streaming and stuff.
All right, yeah,
Um,
sounds
yeah,
good. Thank you for joining me. I mean, I'm assuming you'll be here for a lot of the episodes. Is that
yeah,
is that true? They can expect you.
that is true. You can expect me on here.
I'll be around, and hopefully we'll
Exactly.
get some interesting guests too. I have a rumor that King Potato might be joining us.
Oh,
I
that's a big come
I'm
up.
not I'm not sure
King
though.
Potato on the
We'll
podcast
see.
is
We'll
crazy.
see.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want. If you disagreed with what I'm saying, if you think that I'm brain dead for not applying what D&M told me before, you can tell me that too. But I promise,
You didn't take the objectives. You're fucking.
it's
That's
not as
trash.
obvious as you think. And I yeah,
No, it's
I
not.
that's all I'm gonna say about that. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Tune in next time. Peace.